claims in their board packet. If they've been reviewed, I would need a motion to approve the claims.
I move for their approval. Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Next in your board packet, you received the minutes of the May 18, 2020 board meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes, May the 18th. Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Next on the agenda would be the academic report.
Yeah, I wanted to share, typically during this time, we would have some students represented or a program. Under the current conditions, obviously, we're keeping our numbers down. But I did want to share that the U.S. News high school rankings were published in May, and West Washington Senior High School ranked 33 out of 682 high schools in the state of Indiana, which is a pretty big accomplishment. They use a lot of different measurables from school grade, graduation rate, career technical education programs, and completion of courses. And so, being ranked 33 out of 682 schools in the state is quite an accomplishment. And then also, if you looked at the Louisville metro area, we were ranked in the top 10. So definitely want to congratulate the students and the teachers for their hard work that went into that recognition for the hard work that's been going on there for some years.
I think as a board, we also want to congratulate the students and teachers for a job well done. Next on the agenda would be patrons.
We do have Mr. Ron King here, and he signed up, called in today and talked to Carol. So Ron, if you have something to share with us, now's the time on the agenda to do so.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Mr. Tim Barksdale, right?
I'm Mr. Keith Nance, the superintendent. Mr. Barksdale's right here.
Okay, I'm sorry, your name is?
Keith Nance.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're our superintendent. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yes, I just thought I'd like to start with a verse of scripture. It says, cast in, some of the bad people that were trying to pervert this, or divert this young man. And it says, cast in thy lot among us, let us all have one purse. And that describes sustainable development. And I was somewhat concerned, maybe you could tell me, I could listen, about, I understood that some of the professors and the students at Indiana University would be coming here to work with West Washington school students and on some certain projects. And I asked the presenters, maybe some of you saw in the paper about sustaining Hoosier communities. Did any of you get to go to that?
I know which group you're talking about. The rural development, the Indiana University is working on the rural engagement and development, and they had a meeting in Salem last week, correct?
2 or 3 months ago, they had one. It was in the paper.
Okay.
Campbellsburg, Pekin, and Salem, and I went to all three. Of course, I have been through this kind of thing before, and that's where our comprehensive land use planning came from, right out of the Local Biodiversity Assessment Report. And I know my time is will be going here, and I wanted to share something with you. Actually, there's a plan to the United Nations plan that would destroy Western Christianity, Western civilization, and even humanity. They want to reduce to reduce population and you need another?
This one here.
Okay. And so my concern was that I asked all three presenters. Jane had the main presenter, had a master's degree in higher education, and I asked Jacob Simpson and also Catherine and Jane if they knew it was connected with the United Nations, and none of them knew, even though they were producing, actually giving the presentation. And I'm sorry, I'm talking, I'm not giving these out to you. Wow, I thought
Okay, everybody got one.
I'm sorry, I better give you.
I've got one.
Yeah.
I think
We're
we've
good.
all got one.
Yeah.
I think we've all.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. And so if you look on the, I better watch my time here. If you look on page 2, and page 3, these are page numbers from the Global Biodiversity Assessment Report, an 1,140-page document that actually came out in 1992 at the Earth Conference in Rio de Janeiro, South America. And I don't have time to really talk about it all, except these things, these are things that they want to get rid of, that are considered unsustainable in it. And the documentation is on the page number here. If you have any questions, because I don't, and I'm concerned private property is one, and of course Karl Marx said when someone asked him what the goal of communism was, he said the elimination of private property. So since these professors, when I asked them, are the professors and students that will be working with our students at West Washington, are they committed to sustainable development? And Mr. Jacob Simpson said, absolutely. So my concern is that with this agenda, and they're committed to it, according to one of the presenters, Mr. Jacob Simpson, then this concerns me. I can't say exactly what they'll be doing, but this is a program for the United Nations for one world government that would criminalize Christianity, even though they say you have no discrimination in religion. Yet you read down there in Earth Charter, United Nations Earth Charter, and it says, it actually says that indigenous people have right to their own religion. And if I wanted to share the Lord Jesus Christ with a headhunter, I may be guilty of international crime if we had this one world government. So I'll shut up because I think my time is past. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Any questions?
I can assure you that any partnership we have and anyone that comes in and works in a program is very closely monitored. And so, I don't know what the total goal of the program is, and I could probably get Mary Ann to present with you guys what that partnership look like. But anyone that comes into our building is obviously closely monitored for what it is they're teaching and what they're doing. So we want to do anything that we felt was endangering our students.
No, I appreciate that. Any other questions? I mean, I used to teach philosophy on the college level, and I used to teach communism. Not only, I wasn't promoting it, but we look at it in our philosophy class. And, I'm concerned. In fact, the programs that we have, the comprehensive land use planning, I was there, back in talking to the commissioners, and when Mr. Brown and Ms. Sullivan and Mr. Mitchell and these were there. And of course, Mr. Mitchell had been involved in the hometown competitiveness program as one of the officers. And that program actually, well, anyhow, that was a group that was pushing wealth transfer. And so, anyhow, forgive me if I took too long. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Appreciate your watch care program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda would be resignations and/or retirement. First off, resignations.
Yes, I have 3 resignations. Dated June 2nd, 2020. To whom it may concern, I'll no longer be able to drive bus number 15 effective immediately. Thank you, Diana Rainbow. Next one is Mrs. Knapp, Mr. Nance, and the West Washington School Board. I want to thank you for letting me lead the band program for the last 3 years. I found a tiny school in the middle of cornfields that has a huge heart and defines community. I want to thank you for helping me grow as an educator. It's also been a great adventure, and I've done my best to leave the band program in better shape than I found it. I am moving on to another school and therefore resign my post at West Washington. Sincerely, Jennifer Gordon. The next one's addressed to the Dear West Washington School Board. It is with heavy heart that I turn in my resignation from the 7th and 8th grade special education teacher position. Thank you for everything you've done for me. I have learned so much and grown as a teacher during my time at West Washington. Good things are happening at this school, and I wish you all the best. Sincerely, Ashley M. Gerald. And I do have a retirement to announce. Dated June 15th, Dear West Washington School Board and Mr. Nance, please accept this letter as my notice of retirement as of June 30th, 2020. I've enjoyed the challenge of working as treasurer for the past 8.5 years. I plan to spend more time with my grandchildren and traveling. I wish everyone the best in the future. Thank you, Vicki Nice. I move to accept the resignations and to accept Vicki's retirement.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
So one thing I would say is Vicky's been exceptional. And she worked here prior and had a kid that went to school here. I think she's got a good heart for West Washington. And we've celebrated some people that have worked 30 plus years, and she's only been with us 8.5, but she's definitely worked very, very hard for our school. And I appreciate everything she's done for me professionally to help me as well. So just want to thank her.
Next on the agenda would be hires.
Yes, we'll start with the second one there, just so Tom can make his recommendation, and then I can talk about the recommendations for Mary Ann.
On the 4th grade teacher, I recommend that we hire Lexi Striegel. She is from Brownstown, and she was really good in her interviews, and she expressed how she wanted to be in a rural, small school. So this really kind of matched up to each other. So I recommend that we hire Lexi Striegel.
Need a motion to hire Lexi Striegel as the 4th grade teacher.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion?
Just need to add that she has a bachelor's degree with 0 years experience. That's a $36,700 salary.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
And then we advertised for a math position. I think it says math. I think it's actually English because she's replacing Darren Russell. No, that's incorrect. We hired English last board meeting. This is the math position, so we'll have 2 math teachers in the junior high. It's Andrea Greer. She is a native of our county. She's had been away for some time but moved back home. She has a master's degree that would put her in 10 years experience, put her in the range of $50,700. And I believe Mary Ann had a committee of people help her on that interview process, and they feel like she'd be a great addition to the junior high team.
Need a motion to hire Andrea Greer.
So moved. Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
The next is junior, senior high business. That position came open after a resignation we received last month, and the recommendation is to hire Chad Johnson. Chad was here previously. He's had some experience as an administrator, most recently, but is excited to get back in the classroom. And he has, one thing that's gonna be really helpful is with his licensing, we're gonna be able to get reimbursement for some of the classes that he teaches through the CTE program. That'll also help offset his salary. And previously, those classes we offered, we were getting our traditional reimbursement per student, but not through the career and technical education pathway. So he has a master's degree and 14 years experience, and that's at a $55,500 salary.
Need a motion to hire Chad Johnson.
I moved to hire Chad Johnson for the high school, junior, senior high business.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? Next would be the school attorney.
It'd be my recommendation to stick with Tucker and Tucker. They're always very helpful, they're always very prompt, and most importantly, there's no change in their contract or increase in expenses. So he's been wonderful. His daughter now is stepping in and helping out as well, and she's always very helpful. So I have no complaints with their services.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? Is there anything else under hires and other?
I don't believe so. I think we got everything on the agenda except for the one resignation of Ashley Gerald.
Next on personnel would be administrator contracts and raises, which would include Mr. Nance, Mr. Rosenbaum, Ms. Knapp, and Mr. Mills.
Mr. President, I would ask that we table the raises here. Their administrator contracts don't run out for another year. And so extension and raises, that we would table those until our September meeting after the student count. I put that in the form of a motion.
I'll second that and add that in these times, during this pandemic, I think that it's important that we fiscally make the right decisions here, and we really won't know until September when we know the actual student count. So I would second that motion.
Motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? Next would be other salaried positions, contracts and raises, which would be Mr. Batchelor, Mrs. Williams, and Mrs. Woods. Mrs. Melchor, Ruth, Mr. Bergdahl, Mark Farmer. Need a motion to extend their contracts, because their contracts will be up at the end of June.
I'll make that motion with the fact that we would extend them at the present salary, and we will look at that raise part in September meeting at the same time we look at the other administrators.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? Next would be discussion on the attendance bonus 2019-20.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we get the go-ahead from the board and support to follow through with those attendance bonuses for last school year. Obviously, we had a circumstance where we weren't in school for a period of time, period of weeks, months, and that was a no fault of the employees. So what I'm asking for is that we award the attendance bonuses and do not count the period of time of the closure against any employee.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that we do award the bonuses to those individuals that qualify, leaving and exempting the COVID period, not holding that against them.
Second that.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All's in favor? Unanimous? Under personnel other, I don't believe we have anything else. Under old business, nothing, I don't believe. Under new business, we have line A, return to athletics plan.
Yeah, myself, Mr. Russell, and Ms. Knapp as well have been in several meetings about reopening school, returning to athletics. It's just been pretty ongoing. The plan that we put together and sat down with coaches to look at mirrors very closely to the DOE plan with a two-phase plan. So beginning July 6th through the 19th, how we will handle athletic conditioning exercises and athletic activities. The distinction being conditioning doesn't utilize any equipment like balls or bats or helmets or anything like that, or volleyball nets, etc. So just to give a brief overview, and we'll put this out afterwards with the minutes, but student athletes shouldn't exceed 15 hours per week on campus. That's in all activities combined in the first phase, July 16th to 19th. They will not exceed 3 hours in one day on campus. And the IHSAA Sunday rule applies. There are several things on there that talk about how we will handle screening kids that come in. We won't use locker rooms or weight rooms to begin the first phase. Restrooms would be available. It talks about athletes having their own water bottles. Various things in here to protect against the spread of infectious diseases. Social distancing practices are also in there. Talks about the cleaning procedures, and it'll talk about how coaches will instruct players on proper hygiene throughout. And some of the things of key note are that the athletic facilities on campus, all of them in the first phase, will be the use of West Washington High School sponsored teams only. Then we go to phase 2 on July 20th, which is actually the weekend, so it won't start till that following Monday. It talks about the gathering of the maximum number. It talks about using locker rooms and weight rooms at a 50% capacity. Still has a screening component in there. Still talks about PPE and protective equipment. Coaches using face masks where social distancing cannot be achieved. Players using them if they choose, not a requirement. Talks about IHSA physicals, and it talks about, again, watering, water bottles, having their own personal things for that. And then at that phase, West Washington athletic facilities may be used by West Washington High School teams only, with the exception of the front softball field could be used with the approval from the AD, and that's in the second phase beginning on July 20th. During all this time, West Washington sponsored teams in athletics will not participate in competitions outside of the scope of here within our own student body. And there's a protocol for how to handle students that may be symptomatic of COVID plus students that may have tested positive, and students that may have been exposed. This comes straight from Baptist Health, which they've shared with all of their member schools that work within their sports medicine program. And all these things also are continually in consultation with our local health department. There's an example of the screening document questionnaire that's on there that coaches will have to be required to do with their athletes. And then you have a sample schedule in your packet that just shows what the first phase will look like and what the second phase will look like. And that sample just is labeled boys sports, but just give you an idea of what days and how long they would be working. And then at the back of the packet, there's a document from the IHSAA that is a consent and, I don't see the title at, I don't have that in my section. The consent and release certificate that's required by the IHSAA, and we're requiring that it's done before they participate on July 6th. So parents, be on the lookout for that, and they need to have that in hand when they come and able to participate. So it's a fluid document. We're asking for the board's approval of it, but these are all circumstantial things. You know, the circumstances dictate how we follow that. We're going to follow it as things progress, if they continue to progress well, and there's no information from the governor's office to impose more restrictions. So, you know, if there are more restrictions imposed, we'll follow those restrictions, but this is if things are at status quo as they are today.
So I need a motion to approve the return to athletics pamphlet.
I'll make a motion to approve the West Washington Return to Athletics Plan.
Second. Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion?
Only that, that we approve this plan as long as it doesn't change from the state.
Correct.
Keith, the other thing, last year we had a trainer for football and they weren't able to provide a full-time trainer. Is there any discussion yet about the possibility of having a trainer full-time for this next year? And if so, maybe that person could really help with some of the monitoring.
We've been discussing that with them. We've kind of they haven't been ignoring us, but they've been dealing with their own set of circumstances.
Right.
So they keep telling me that, you know, they're in the process and they'll talk to me. I've talked to the head trainer, Kent, who came out some last year. I've talked to him on a bi-weekly basis. So it is on the forefront. It is something we're discussing. So hopefully we'll have someone that's able to lend their expertise to us.
Great.
When we talked last year, was that just for football?
Last year, they came to every football game, and they came to a limited number of the other contests. And in that contract, we had no obligation of any kind of pay.
Right.
Anything that comes to the future, if we were to have a full-time one, we would there would be a share of cost between us and the hospital. So none of that is finalized yet. We're just still in the discussion phase because they got kind of put behind schedule with all the things that the hospital had to deal with. They were all hands on deck, including the sports medicine folks, in dealing with those first several months of COVID-19.
Thanks.
Any other discussion?
Well, my motion stands with the correction make a motion to approve the West Washington Return to Athletics Plan with the assumption that the scenario will remain static.
You second that?
Yeah.
Motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Next in your packets, you received information on the elementary and junior, senior high textbook fees.
I can tell you we tried to keep them at the same cost they were last year or less. So there's not any drastic changes in there. There are some of the Chromebook fees that were lessened because we were using some of our CARES Act money to purchase a stockpile of Chromebooks, an event that we need to continue at any point, any extended period of time of virtual learning. But pretty standard to what they were last year.
I'd move that we approve the textbooks fees as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Next would be to approve the amended special education cooperative agreement.
Should have been in your packet, Carol sent out, there was a section in there, and I had a little note. It's just a change in the wording of the shared programs. The way that it was billed previously, it was based off of what they considered a 50-50 share. 50% was based off of the enrollment of the kids in there, and 50% was just divided among the people that share the programs. To West Washington, that wasn't very beneficial because there were several programs we were paying 1/3 of the 50%, and we had 0 kids in it. So we rewrote that, and we have to go through various versions of it. But the new version simply states that with shared programming, we'll go on an average of the use over a 5-year period. And so each year, the 6th year would roll off. So in a 5-year period, if our kids that go to the moderate program at Salem, we had an average of 4 kids, that's what we'll pay based on. It's certainly something that's advantageous to us.
I think that's only in the secretary's packet. I don't think, did anybody else get that?
No.
No. You want to read it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
The portion not
Yep.
highlighted.
Each participating school corporation's total additional pupil count, or APC, from December 1st of the previous 5 years we used to calculate a rolling average. The cost of the program will be divided by the APC rolling average of all participating school corporations, accessing the program to generate a per pupil cost. The sending participating school corporation will be charged the per pupil cost for each student with a disability who is receiving services in the receiving participating school corporation's program. And that's the only change. I'll make a motion to approve the new contract.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Next on the agenda would be to approve the 2021 budget calendar.
We'll have to amend that if we change things in September.
It's just a calendar, I think.
Oh, the calendar.
Yeah, the calendar.
No.
I'm on D instead of C. Okay.
The calendar is based off the state's budget calendar, so it would change if the state's budget calendar changed, but at this point in time, we have been given no guidance that there's going to be any change in the budget calculation and calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Next on the agenda would be graduation and prom dates tentative to the guidelines from the government.
Currently it says on beginning July 4th, the state will be open to more activities. And so we're looking to have our graduation on July the 10th. One thing that we want to do is make sure we're doing it, trying to practice social distancing as much as we can. So there are some things that we're going to send in letter form out to our seniors and families in regards to the number of students that they can, the number of invited guests they can attend. But we do not want to limit, so we do have multiple spaces within our building where we can spread people out. So the discussion is to have each senior able to have 6 guests inside of the sunken gym where the graduation will physically take place. And we'll have overflow seating for families larger than that in the front gym that can watch it on a telecast. That way, post-graduation, families can gather outside and do pictures and other things like that. We'll practice social distancing, ask that people sit within their family unit, and we'll have some ushers to help with those things. We encourage people to show up by 6:30. The graduation's at 7, so we have time to get everyone seated and start promptly. And then we encourage people to use protective equipment, masks, in situations where social distancing cannot be achieved. So that'll all be sent out in detail, but I want to share that in this setting. Last time we had quite a few views of our board meetings, so it's a good way to get the word out. And then July 11th, what we're looking to hopefully be able to pull off is a prom in a large setting where we can social distance. Hopefully, we've discussed potentially using the new building. It should be complete by then. We can open it up, big open air area, and be able to practice social distancing as best as we can, and then put some guidelines in there for things like a dance floor, how to handle that. So that's the current plan, and again, that's pending no setbacks with our state.
Any motion for that?
No, it's just something to share
Motion.
with the individuals that are viewing at home.
Okay, next on the agenda would be discussion about the band. We've lost a band director. I've been contacted by a parent really concerned, about the program and losing the program. And they wanted basically for us, to discuss this as a board and see and as administration and see what we thought we should do.
So I guess share some information about numbers. Currently, there are less than 10 people signed up for band, junior high through high school. So that's concerning. Of course, how to handle staffing something with that low of participation. But definitely sympathetic to the musical arts and wanting to have them, and those people that are a part of that group of 10, and also for those people that are past participants in our band program. So, I'd like to open the floor, or not, just to openly discuss how we want to continue and what you'd like Ms. Knapp and I to do leaving this meeting.
I think having a band, a traditional band, even in a normal year is a hard undertaking, and now with COVID, and this isn't an excuse, I know that I don't play an instrument, but I know with a lot of the brass instruments, there's a lot of valves and cleaning and things like that. I do think it'd be hard to have a traditional band with a low number like we have, but I think having music classes, maybe an opportunity to even expand the number of kids that participate, if there's some sort of music classes that could be offered in the absence of a formal band program or structure, if that makes sense.
Yeah, with a limited number of people, I would support, some sort of music class if we could, at least have a couple of periods a day. Maybe we can find a part-time teacher. But we surely need to explore our options, I think, to try to continue with some sort of music program.
Okay.
I feel so too. I think we need to, extend out, see what we can find, try to extend it.
So I think what I'm hearing is go out and look for a person that could fill a part-time position, whether that be a retired person that may have an interest, or a person that just fits their schedule to be a part-time teacher for a program like that. And if we could offer a period for junior high and a period for high school, and then go from there in future years, see what we can do.
An instructor, someone that can teach someone to play the instrument and progress those that already, the 10 people we say we have, progress them to the next level. Yes, somebody with those qualifications.
Okay.
Do we have a pep club or something like that? Or?
We have a spirit club that doesn't, obviously, they don't have class setting, but does meet, and it's typically headed up by the cheerleading coach or some other volunteer staff, teaching staff.
I don't know, this might be an opportunity with some parents or community members that have music talent or experience to the kids that want to still play and perform in a band setting to, you know, to get them together in a club setting
Okay.
after school.
So I'll do my best to exhaust all possibilities as far as beating the bushes to look for a part-time person that has the ability to instruct music in that manner, in that fashion, for a couple of periods a day. And then we'll start looking at alternatives if that's not feasible.
I really would like to see us promote it when school starts and try to get the kids involved in it. I'd like to see us have a band that performs and does well, you know, and that kind of stuff. So I just want to make sure this is not just a pacification here, but we're looking to build a band back into our school.
That'd be ideal to get the numbers back up.
Anything else? We have new business, I don't think we have anything else.
The only other thing that I wanted to discuss with you guys and make sure you're okay with it, we currently have scheduled to have the drama production that was supposed to happen in the spring happen the first weekend of August. And for that event, I think it's prudent to have a max capacity. So kind of going with the guidelines we considered for graduation, a 50% capacity for that event. And I just want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable with that. Same thing, practicing social distancing, setting in groups that are your family groups, limiting the number of people, and making sure we ask people to recommend them to wear protective equipment, personal protective equipment.
So, and you basically talking about maybe having more than one show, so.
Yeah, we should have, typically we have 3 shows. I think they're maybe talking about having 4 at 50% capacity. And then they may do something with a recording and a stream of it later as well for those people that don't feel, you know, for whatever reason, if they have their own personal health issues that they can't come.
Does that need a motion or anything?
No.
Any other business to be presented to the board?
I'm going to give you a summary of the committee's meeting and talking about
Okay.
reopening school.
Yeah.
There are a lot of questions about the reopening of school, and when you talk about reopening school, there's even more questions. So we have formed committees. The first group is going to meet as a whole on Thursday, and then we're going to break into some subcommittees so that we can go out and study and prepare for what it would look like when we reopen, what procedures and protocols we would have in place, what option we would have for virtual students, because there will be some percentage of parents that aren't comfortable sending their kids back to school, and we will provide a virtual option for them. But what that will look like and how we will utilize our instruction that we already have going on in school will be a part of one of those committees for the virtual option. And then we'll also have a committee of members of the West Washington Education Association, so we can discuss anything that comes up that may relate to working conditions or contract issues. So it's going to be a lengthy process, so we ask for everyone's patience. We can tell you is that we are looking at a reopening plan. We're not looking at a closure plan. We're looking at a reopening plan. So at this point, that's all I can tell you. The direction we're moving is for a reopening plan. So we got several community members that are both parents, have backgrounds in the medical profession. We have a member that is a parent and also part of the Washington County Health Department, just regular community members. as well as board members and staff members all participating. So it's a pretty well-represented group, and we hope to come up with a good plan unique to West Washington.
I think that's important, I guess, for if folks are watching, hope they're watching at home, but all the parents to know that we're gonna give them the space that they're comfortable in. And whether that's remote, virtual learning, or whether that's on-site, we're gonna have options for both.
Any other discussion? I'll officially adjourn the meeting.